Pat Mayo experience. It's a Friday hang, talking about whatever. So, if people don't know, I am based out of Toronto, and I don't really like hockey all that much. But now that the playoffs are approaching, it gets that time of year that when I go out with like my wife's friends, they're gonna ask, "Oh, Pat, you're in sports. Let me tell you about hockey." And I need to like have some semblance of knowing what I'm talking about. So Chris Meaney's here, hockey expert, to fill me in. We'll talk about league of leagues and baseball too. Yeah. And you're repping the new shirt.
That's right.
That just come in.
Yeah, it just came in. Slept in it last night. Probably won't come off for a couple days. So
how excited were you?
Man, that was awesome. The biggest thing was just it was so unexpected. You know what I mean? Like when
I feel like people were leaning Philly,
but when Wentz went down,
yes,
that's the thing. When Wentz went down, it's like Foles is a serviceable quarterback, but let's be honest here. Is he going to be able to beat Minnesota in that defense? Is he going to be able to, keep up with Tom Brady? And he did it. So that's the biggest thing. It was just so surprising. Yeah, it was awesome.
Is Foles back? Would you try to, if you could leverage him into, let's say, a second-round pick, would you just get rid of him? I think I would.
I think I would keep him. I really do. I mean, it's all about Foles, and I think that they'll tell Foles, like, listen, you've earned yourself an opportunity here to be a starting quarterback if you want to, and I think he feels comfortable in Philly. Like, this is somebody who wanted to retire a couple of years ago.
He's not going to be. He's going to be the backup.
Yeah, but I actually do think he's fine with that. I know it's crazy to think about, but he seems like he's fine. He always talks about the family, the people that he's met in Philadelphia. Doug Peterson is the only coach to go see him in college. Like, he just feels comfortable there, and they had to talk him out of retirement. I mean, he got cut on national TV with the Rams, and there was all this talk that he didn't want to play football anymore. It just wasn't fun for him, and I mean, he's obviously on cloud nine. He's MVP, which is just crazy to think about, and Wentz is probably not going to be ready. Let's be honest. They don't need to rush back Wentz. If they can get a second-round pick, I'm sure they'll think about it. But I mean, Bradford, they got a first for Bradford, and you think about everything that RG3 returned, and he didn't even step on the football field yet. This guy can win.
Sure, but it's different. Like,
it is.
At least with Bradford, and I'm not saying that Bradford's a better quarterback than Nick Foles, because he probably isn't at this point, but there's always the built-in pedigree of Sam Brady. He was the first pick.
Yeah.
We know what his upside is. Oh, if he could just stay healthy, he would be so good.
Yeah.
So you get that cachet. I mean, the first-round pick, even at the time, was laughed at by everybody. Like,
right.
Like, Minnesota, what are you doing here?
Right.
And
listen, it was like a 12th pick.
It didn't burn them.
No.
They're fine.
They are fine. It'll be interesting. I think that they keep him. I really do. And I think he wants to stay there. And like I said, they'll give him the opportunity. Hey, you want to be a starting quarterback? We'll flip you somewhere. But at the end of the day, like, do you think Foles would be as good on another team?
No.
It's all about coaching. It really is.
It's coaching.
And they played to his strengths.
It's coaching, it's scheme, and when you have a defense that can slow people down or at least create turnovers, it makes things easier to you. And the Doug Peterson scheme worked out really well for him. They switched it up to play to his strengths.
They did, and that's exactly it. Frank Reich said, and now he's with the Colts, but he recently said, we sat down with Foles. What can you do and what can't you do? What do you feel comfortable doing and what don't you? Okay, you don't want to throw the deep ball, don't want to throw the deep ball. You know what I mean? Like, it was all about what do you feel comfortable, let's play to your strengths. And it took some time because he looked really bad early on. I mean, that game against Oakland on Christmas Day, he hardly completed a pass. That's why it was so surprising. Yeah. What he was able to do against Minnesota and New England was very impressive.
Where do you think these guys end up going, the quarterbacks? Like, where does Kirk Cousins go? Because the last I've over the past like 2 weeks, the Jets are all in, Denver's all in, Minnesota's all out. But like, I think he goes to Denver.
I think Denver would be his best option. Now, if he wants to get paid, and Kirk Cousins is fine, right? He doesn't need all this money. He's made a lot of money recently.
Let me ask you this, because I brought this up a lot on Radio Row, because it was like, it was right after they traded for Alex Smith, Washington. It's like, well, Kirk Cousins isn't coming back, clearly. I was like, is Kirk Cousins even any good? Like, how much better is Kirk Cousins than Nick Foles? I'm going to say that he is better.
Yeah, he is.
But is he $20 million a year better? No, he seems like one of those guys that you sign and then your team's fucked.
Yeah, absolutely. And you look at what Washington has done and seeing Kirk Cousins and going to get Alex Smith. Like, do you think Alex Smith is... Like, when you look at Alex Smith and you look at Kirk Cousins, do you see a huge difference?
Kirk Cousins may be better, but I'm not sold on that.
But
I can be flipped on that opinion.
But what Washington is looking at is the record. At the end of the day, they're looking at the record.
Which is crazy.
Which is crazy, but that's what they're looking at. They're looking at wins and losses, and they're saying, okay, Alex Smith is a serviceable quarterback. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. Well, maybe we'll get some wins from him. I don't know where Kirk Cousins is going to go. Like I said, if he wants the money, he'll go to the Jets. If he cares about winning football games and having a legitimate shot, he'll go to the Broncos. He'll go to the Vikings. What are the Vikings going to do?
I don't think that, Mike Zimmer even came out and says, like, we have a good team here. If we start spending $25 million a year on a quarterback, we can't have a good team anymore.
They should just tag. Yeah, they should
not even tag Keenum. Sign
him to a 2-3 year deal.
Yeah, like, he's not going to, on the open market, which he's going to be, he's not going to command $25 million a year. He's not going to command $20 million a year. So even if he gets like the Bortles contract, which is basically them saving money this year and bleeding a little bit of his money from this year into next year. Then it's like the Mike Glennon contract too. Like you can cut him with basically no repercussions and build someone else or have someone else. If you get Case Keenum, I mean, $10 million a year is probably too low because he's a quarterback.
Yeah.
Like 3 for 45, three for 50 with like 20 guaranteed.
And I think that's fine. Like Case Keenum is a good quarterback. He's fine.
But is Case Keenum, like how much better is Kirk Cousins than Case Keenum?
I don't think that much. I really don't think that much, honestly.
If Kirk Cousins wasn't franchised twice,
right,
would we think he was all that good?
That's a good question. The thing with Keenum for me is he just won you 13 games. You have a good defense. You have a rapport already with every wide receiver that you have.
Sure, but you just played it out and you lost to a team that had a backup quarterback.
Sure, good point. But at the end of the day, like it's just now you played that playoff game. Now you played a couple playoff games. You get a little bit more experience. What has Kirk Cousins done? Kirk Cousins, how many playoff wins does he have? Nah, I mean at least Keenum got the one playoff win. He didn't play all that great against the Saints, but they advanced and they moved on and they played a road game in Philadelphia, which was a tough place to play really all year. So I think Keenum is fine. Again, you get another running back, you get Dalvin Cook back. You played all year without Dalvin Cook. You were very successful. I think you just keep Keenum, and he's comfortable with the scheme, and I would just keep him. I wouldn't be paying the money on Kirk Cousins.
No, if you can get him for 30% what you get Kirk Cousins, like that gap isn't that big, and you don't set yourself back in terms of rebuilding your defense. Like you're going to need to sign a few of these guys to big money to keep them there, and then you're going to have, like every team, you're going to have to let people go and try to build from the draft once again.
If I'm the Broncos, man, I'm going after Cousins. You're really now their defense is going to take a couple hits, but you need a quarterback. Let's be honest.
They need an O-line too. Like their O-line was decimated after the Super Bowl year.
It was, but they can't roll out what they've been like. Simeon and Brock is back there again, and Lynch. Like it's a complete joke.
So Denver needs a quarterback. Minnesota basically has an option to keep some of their quarterbacks if they want to. Like they could bring back Teddy B. They could bring back like Bradford's on the open market. He's definitely going to the Jets. He's definitely going to that. He's such a Jets quarterback.
Yeah.
Like we missed out on Cousins. Here's $100 million, Sam Bradford.
And
just keep McCown.
Just keep McCown. Absolutely, I agree. I mean, he's not going to cost you a whole lot.
Draft someone, keep McCown.
You guys are fine. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I don't think. And if Cousins goes to the Jets, like, are they a playoff team?
No,
they're not. They're not a playoff team. You're going to spend all this money on Kirk Cousins. They're a few pieces away.
There is one other quarterback out there that everyone is divided on, and I don't know where he's going to end up. But if he ends up in the right situation, I think he could be the Denver quarterback, or even potentially the Arizona quarterback, with David Johnson coming back and like their offense being good again. Tyrod's out there, and people hate Tyrod, or they love Tyrod.
Yeah,
and it's not that they love him thinking like, oh, Tyrod's a great quarterback. The two opinions are Tyrod sucks, or Tyrod's like the 15th best quarterback in the NFL. And I'm more in the camp that he's like league average, which is really good for a starting quarterback.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look at all the bad quarterback play last year. Guys were getting hurt, backups were coming in, they were brutal. Like there was a lot of mediocre quarterback play last season, and for Tyrod Taylor, I mean, I think he's fine. I think people give him a hard time. I mean, he didn't have much to work with in Buffalo.
Of course not.
Nothing to work with in Buffalo, really. Like, who is his number one wide?
Bolden
didn't want to play there.
How dare you disrespect Zay Jones?
Zay Jones, everybody's favorite heading into the year.
Deontay Thompson.
And Calvin Benjamin came in and he couldn't stay healthy.
He's also not good.
Exactly. And you know what? Exactly. There's a reason why they traded him. And Carolina's record with him on the football field and away from the football field, they were just a much better team without Calvin Benjamin. So Tyrod is fine. I mean, you put him on Arizona. Fitz is going to come back another year. He's going to have a weapon in Fitz. He's going to have a deep throw. People think he can't throw the deep ball. He can throw the deep ball. He's had no weapon. So Tyrod's interesting. Buffalo's an interesting case too. It's a lot of people are like, hey, we want Foles. Well, Foles wouldn't.
Yeah, Foles is not helping
do
in
anything
Buffalo.
there in Buffalo.
Well, I mean, a lot of the Buffalo offense, the reason that they made the playoffs, like the defense was very opportunistic earlier in the season, but Tyrod really fueled their offense because running the read option, like he's able to open up Shady. They can run the ball 40 times a game. They can slow it down. They can limit the number of possessions against the other teams. Like they weren't good last year. Everyone just kind of thought they were a farce, and they almost beat Jacksonville.
Yeah, they probably should have. Really?
But they're not good.
That's
the problem. That is just one problem. You're not any good.
And that was my thing with Jacksonville and Buffalo is you probably only need to score 10 to 14 points to beat Jacksonville, but can you do it?
Unless you're the Steelers.
Yeah.
And you score 42 and can't beat them.
And you can't beat them. Yeah, and the whole Blake Bortles thing was really interesting to me too because
That's a placeholder though.
Yeah.
That's so they don't have to opt into his big money this year.
Sure.
Take the huge cap hit. They just kind of push, hey, let's run this back and figure it out for the future. Like, I'm not going to be surprised. Let's say someone drops because there's the big 5 quarterbacks coming out. Like, I don't know if Lamar Jackson's going to be like the perfect fit for Jacksonville. Maybe he is, but one of these quarterbacks is going to drop.
Yeah.
And they might drop down to the back end of the first round. I wouldn't be surprised to see Jacksonville take a quarterback.
Sure. I mean, that's what it's all about, cost-effective quarterbacks. You look now, at some of these teams that are doing, well, Wentz is a good example. Trading all your picks to get a cost-effective quarterback. Should the Giants do that? Should the Giants be parting with Eli Manning and get a cost-effective quarterback?
I mean, I think that they will get a cost-effective quarterback. They will not part with Eli yet.
No, maybe another year. They probably feel like the window is still there for them to win.
It's not.
But you're right.
As someone who picked them to win the Super Bowl this year, it is not.
You weren't alone with that. But I look at Jacksonville, and I understand Blake Bortles and everything, but I look at that game against New England. It was against New England. Like, Bortles looked really good in the first half, and they just played conservative.
They did.
But they played a little conservative. They didn't let him throw the ball. They didn't let him throw the ball at all in the end of the first half. There was almost 2 minutes left. They just kneeled and like, here you go, we'll run this out. And in the second half, they were too predictable with their offense. It's like they didn't trust Blake. So that's why I thought maybe they'd move away. But they were so crunched. They didn't have any cap space. I think if they had the cap space, they would be in on a guy like Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, they would be. I mean, if they had cut Bortles, they would have opened up a lot of cap room, but that really would have affected how they could build their team moving forward. Yeah. And realistically, you need to keep that defense in place or you're going to have zero shot. Yeah. And they might not even be able to do that beyond next year.
Right.
So find your cost. Bring back Bortles. Find a guy in the draft that hopefully can take over from Bortles, and just let Bortles go, and then you got 3 years with that guy on a good contract, and you're looking good. Yeah. But it's difficult to do. The Browns try to do it every year. It doesn't work. Then you end up drafting Kaiser, and he's terrible.
The Browns are.
Who's AJ McCarron is on the market too.
Yeah, well, apparently, Cleveland really wants him.
Is he substantially worse than Kirk Cousins?
I don't know.
We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know about it.
He won a playoff game.
I don't. Yeah, he's done a lot more than Dalton, really. I wonder about AJ. I haven't really seen a lot from him, right? But, I mean, Garoppolo leaves, and this guy is just a stud now. You wonder with some of these guys who get groomed with. I'm not saying that Dalton is fantastic. You're learning from Dalton in the sidelines.
Dalton's good,
but Dalton's fine. I mean, there's something to be said about some of these quarterbacks who have been in the system and just have learned over the past couple of years just watching guys, and then they get the opportunity, and then they're fine.
The difference is with AJ McCarron and Garoppolo is the consensus on Garoppolo is, he's really good.
Well, really good.
Really, really good.
Yeah.
And you just don't hear that about AJ McCarron. It's like, he could be better Mike Glennon. It's like, ooh, okay.
So he could go to Cleveland. Cleveland is very interesting. Obviously, they passed on all these, Wentz. They passed on Wentz. They passed on Watson. They get Kaiser. Now, what are they going to do? They're going to draft a quarterback at 1 now because they feel like they have to. I mean, they probably should.
Well, I don't know if they probably should or not. It depends on how they want to build long-term. Obviously, in retrospect, passing on Wentz and passing on Watson is a really terrible idea because they're both seemingly very, very good.
But all their scouts told them to draft Wentz. All of them, and they fired them all.
Well, that's what they do in Cleveland. Anyone who makes one decision that doesn't quite work out, they fire them 24 hours later. But they had a process in place. It was almost like Sam Hinkie in Philadelphia. Let's trust the process here. This is what we're trying to do. And the plan that they were trying to do, build defense, build your defensive line, build your offensive line, make sure that you have the pieces around. Then get your quarterback, hope you hit, and then you have that 4-year window to win. Now, if you draft the quarterback first and then build all the rest of the team around it, you lose 2 years of the quarterback, and then it becomes too expensive. Now, you can do it that way, and it can work that way. But, I mean, just using the Seahawks, I think the Seahawks are the best blueprint for this. You build an awesome defense, a cost-effective defense, and you find the quarterback. Now, finding Russell Wilson is immensely difficult, and it's not going to come around every single year. But that is sort of the bonanza of how this works. You get Russell Wilson making $600,000 for 3 years, and you're like, we can afford anybody. We're going to be awesome for 3 years.
And now everybody on the defensive side is pissed that they're going to spend all the money on Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
But listen, we invested so much in the defense, we got to pay Russell Wilson at one point. You're right. That's exactly what Cleveland should be doing. And they're just a couple pieces away from being I'm not saying contenders, but being obviously a much better team.
Not 0-16
team that doesn't win football games, but their defense was fine. Their defense was fine. It wasn't awful. They were really good against the run. The offensive line had some nice pieces. Now let's get a quarterback and let's get some pieces. I bring Josh Gordon, Coleman. They have some okay pieces at tight end. Like they're not far away from being like a 6-7 win team. They just obviously have not been able to figure out that quarterback.
True, but if they do figure out the quarterback and they draft, let's say Sam Darnold, and he just turns out to be awesome, which I'm not convinced on with that. And it's not like I'm sitting down watching a ton of college tape. The USC is like the one team that I do watch in college football because they're my team. Yeah. And I don't think he's going to be a great pro. Someone will make that mistake. Probably the Jets too. They'll draft all the quarterbacks and just they'll all be terrible.
Seems like a Jets pick. Yeah.
It does. But if you do hit on it, like I don't think that they are a 6-7 win team with a capable quarterback. If they get a good quarterback, they could be really good.
What do you think if Kirk Cousins played on that team last year? Well,
on the Browns?
Say Kirk Cousins goes to the Browns this year.
4-12.
4 wins?
Maybe.
Okay. I think maybe like 6 or 7.
I don't think Kirk Cousins is that good. That's the problem.
We're having this conversation. Okay.
Like I find it very difficult to gauge how good he is because some of the stats line up and you're like, oh, he's just younger Matt Ryan. He's younger Matt Stafford. Like that's where his stats kind of go. But I just don't see. He throws so many like dirt balls. He throws like the Matt Castle bounce pass. You're like, ugh. Or like, that's a real bad decision. So Kirk Cousins, that guy's wide open, and he threw it in triple coverage. Like, what are you doing?
Stafford's a good comparison.
But I think Stafford's good.
I think Stafford's good too. I think Stafford's better than Cousins. Though it's hard to judge from last year. I really do feel like this because Washington, I mean, they had so many injuries. I think they had 22 different offensive line combinations this past year.
That's not good.
That's crazy to even think about. And Cousins was on his ass all the time. He was getting hit left, right, and center. And then you take away 2 1,000-yard wide receivers. It never happened before.
And
2 of them left.
And then you put a quarterback at wide receiver who had one good year and thinking he's the solution.
You bring in Pryor, who was a complete bust. Jordan Reed couldn't stay on the football field. Doxson couldn't stay on the football field. So I think Cousins, if he's surrounded in the right area, I think he can be like a serviceable quarterback. But he will, like, if he goes to the Jets, it will be an overpayment.
The thing is, wherever he goes, it's going to be an overpayment. So I don't want to be the team that signs him. I'd rather take my shot on signing Tyrod to 2 years, $30 million, and hope I draft someone good.
Yeah, I think Denver should go get him. That's what I think.
Cousins?
Yeah.
Or Tyrod?
Nah, Cousins.
Where does Tyrod go? He has to go somewhere. It's like he's not going to be a backup. It'd be crazy if he was a backup next year. Like, what are the Bills going to do at quarterback?
They may just. I don't know. Like, Peterman is obviously not the answer.
Not the solution. Jay Peterman.
Jay Peterman, yeah, he's clearly. I felt bad for that guy. I mean, to put him in that situation against the Chargers, Jeff must have been just loving that. Look at his chops. I mean, this is a defense who can just get after the quarterback, and that's what they did. So I don't know. You brought up Arizona. That's certainly it could be an option. They don't seem like a team that wants to spend a whole lot of money.
I'm just trying to think. Like Arizona, Denver, Buffalo, the Jets, Minnesota. Who else? Cleveland. The Cleve.
Oh, what is this against Tyrod? That's. I mean, if the Giants want to go a different way,
the Giants strike me more as
they're not going to go get Tyrod.
No, they're either going to draft someone or keep Eli.
Yeah.
And they'll draft someone, but whether it's a first round pick because they do have a pretty high pick. But like, is that everyone? Or is there anyone we're missing?
That's it. That's off the top of my head. That's all I can think about.
Yeah. I guess Washington solved it. Pat Mahomes.
Yeah, I mean, Mahomes, there's going to be some growing pains with him, but he's going to be fine. Like, he actually has a lot of upside. I get excited about him in that offense.
So do I. It's funny. I talked to Travis Kelce at Radio Row, and he was fired up. I asked him over under 2,000 yards for you next season. He's like, slight under.
Slight. I mean, other people inside the division are talking about Mahomes. Like, Chris Harris Jr. was on NFL Network, and this was before they traded Alex Smith, and he was talking about, I mean, Alex Smith.
That was the game that he played, KC Denver, Week 17?
Yeah, that was the game, and he said, Mahomes is legit. He's for real. He's awesome. So he had said that he expected Smith to get traded, and he was actually saying he wouldn't mind Smith in Denver. That he went out and said that. So that just goes to show the people that have respect for Alex Smith and what he does. He's not a flashy quarterback.
No, but I think if you have Alex Smith, and this is why I don't understand the whole Washington thing with Alex Smith. Like,
yeah, I didn't understand that trade.
Like, he would be really good in Denver.
He would be.
I mean, Denver still has a good defense. It's not quite as good as it was, but I feel like they were just deflated last year. On both sides of the ball. Like, Von Miller didn't have the year that you would want Von Miller to have, but I don't think he's done by any means. Well, but you put Alex Smith in that system, and he's not turning the ball over, yet he still can move the chains, take advantage of, Colonel Sanders on the outside, Demaryius Thomas, get him going again. Like, he could do that, and that would be a good fit. When you put them on Washington, like Washington had an okay defense. I think they were like, by DVOA, I think they were 11th last season. Like, they're not close to winning.
So no, they're not. And, well, especially in the division, too. Like, you just have the Eagles there, and most of their teams just intact.
And
like
Dallas.
And then Dallas had a couple things obviously happen.
I don't believe in it. I didn't believe in Dallas last year. I don't believe in Dallas this year.
I think that they're better than Washington. I think that they're a better football team than Washington. Maybe they're close. But Denver, Casey wouldn't have traded Alex Smith at Denver.
No.
I mean, you couldn't do that. But you're right. I mean, the problem with Denver is they were really good against the run. They were really good against the pass. They give up a lot of passing touchdowns. It was the turnovers. Every time that Simeon came on the field, this guy basically threw a pick like almost every single game this year. And that puts him in tough spots. He's turning the football over all the time. And getting Brock, he's turning the football all the time. Lynch is turning the football. Like, nobody could move the chains, and every time their defense got on the field, they were just gas, and they were giving up these touchdowns. So I still think that they're a contender. I really do. But Mahomes it's exciting, that whole offense. And Kelsey, you're right. I saw that interview. I mean, he's smiling ear to ear.
He was
Hunt.
He was one of the best interviews all week. Joe Thomas and Andrew Hawkins have a podcast together. Andrew Hawkins, very media savvy. He's good. Yeah. But Joe Thomas is also hilarious, which is really good.
Nice.
Some of them, like, I don't want to throw too much shade at Jordan Howard. Not the best interview.
No.
A lot of mumbling and one-word answers.
Yeah, some people they just don't like the cameraman or the mic.
It's true.
Maybe some people talk.
Maybe some people just can't talk.
Yeah, that's probably what it is.
All right, let's switch to NHL. Got to do this.
Yeah.
Who are the 5 best teams in the NHL? Because if I ask anyone around here, people just tell me, oh man, the Leafs are so good. Gonna win the cup, not even close. So I need like a realistic counter to be like, because I don't know. I'm like, well, if I just look at history, it's going to lead me to point to them not winning the cup. And I really hope they don't, because full disclosure, you and I live in Toronto, not Leafs fans. In fact, if anything, I've become less of a Leaf fan since I've moved here. I don't even watch hockey. I don't care about hockey. The one thing I care about is that the Maple Leafs do poorly.
Yeah, and you know what's funny about this? Last week I was at a pub with a couple Leafs fans, and I just joked around. Because they were talking about the Philadelphia parade and the Eagles parade, and it was so crazy. And I just said, where would the Leafs parade be like if they won the cup?
They have it all mapped out.
Buddy pulled out a map out of his pocket. He had a map in his pocket of where the parade was going to be. I lost my shit, and I'm with you. I was like, this can't happen. You already have a map going up Young. It'll take over on Bloor. I was blown away. I was like, this is ridiculous. They have the toughest path because obviously you have the Pittsburgh Penguins who have won the cup 2 straight years, and they're still legitimate. They're still the team to beat. Let's be honest.
I think the betting favorite is Vegas.
I mean, that's crazy. I think Vegas is gonna be out first round.
You say that, but everyone said they wouldn't win like 5 games.
What they're doing is unbelievable.
Is the Vegas playing in Vegas a legit home ice advantage because people are just fucked when they go there?
I think so. Some teams have been, they've been posting pictures. I mean, Tampa Bay went there and they said, go have fun. Well, we look at Tampa and they got a bunch of kids. And Cooper is a young coach too, and he's coached a lot of these kids in junior, and then he got the opportunity to coach them in the NHL at Tampa, and he said, go have fun, guys. This is Vegas. Like, go have fun, go party. They're posting pictures on Instagram, they're posting videos, they're having fun. I think that what we're seeing now is when teams make their 2nd and 3rd trip to Vegas, things are different now. They got that system. They got that out of their system. The Leafs, their first game was New Year's Eve. Like, it was all planned out. They're having a lot of fun, and now teams are making their 2nd and their 3rd trips there, and it's a little bit different. Vegas is going to be interesting now in the last month. They're starting. A couple guys are hurt.
Do they have talent?
They've lost a couple teams. They do. They have some talent.
Because wasn't their goalie benched in the playoffs?
He was Fleury, but he's still good. Like, Murray was the guy that won them the cup the year before, and they flipped to him.
Most of my Marc-Andre Fleury experience is from the 2003 World Juniors, which was in Halifax, and I was at the game, and he tried to clear the puck.
Yeah.
I believe he cleared it off Ovechkin into the net.
It was O'Sullivan, who's very, he's all over social media and stuff, Patrick O'Sullivan. But yeah, he cleared it right off of him in the net. But every reason to say that Vegas is good is a reason that you hate hockey. All the cliches.
Good grit,
hard-working
guys,
chip on the shoulder. Oh no, but honestly, all of those things that there's some teams, these players on in Vegas, they got cut from their team, And because you can only keep so many, so they're playing for contracts. They have things to prove. There's a good 5 or 6 guys in there that have expiring contracts.
Well, the expansion draft seemed very generous to Vegas this time around.
They were,
as opposed to like when the Senators came in. It's like, here, have the worst player on every team.
And I think you're going to see some deals over the next couple of years. Like one deal, like Pittsburgh. There's always these sweetheart deals in the NHL. Pittsburgh gets a guy from Ottawa, Derek Brassard, and Vegas is the 3rd team in this deal, and they take half of that salary. Why? What? Well, you gave us Marc-Andre Fleury. Like things like that, right? So you're going to see some of these deals with Vegas, but they're good. They're fast. They're well coached. All those cliches.
Are they fool's gold?
Yeah, I think that they're like if they play Anaheim first round, I'm picking the Ducks. Like they're a team that's done well this season. They've certainly the expectations they've exceeded all of them. There was a Super Bowl prop, Vegas points or rushing yards from Devontae Freeman when Freeman played in that Super Bowl. And everyone was saying, it was like, I think the line was at like, I think Freeman maybe 74 yards. And we're like, well, Vegas is not even going to get to that. Well, they're already at that, right? So they've done really well for themselves. But there's 2 teams in the West, is Nashville and Winnipeg. Those are the 2 teams that I like the most. Yeah, Winnipeg is, they arguably have the best top 9 in the league. They really do. Like Patrick Laine's a stud. Everyone talks about Matthews, but Laine went 2nd. He's a stud. Shifley's good. Blake Wheeler is one of the better players in the NHL. They got good goaltending, and they're stacked defensively on the right side. Bufflin, Trouba, Myers, they're really good. They're really good. They got Paul Stastny, so they're deep. They picked him up off in the deadline, so they're deep. All 3 lines is solid. The problem with them is they're going to play Nashville most likely in the 2nd round. It's like Pittsburgh playing Washington in the 2nd round last year. Just the way the divisions are set up. Like if it was old school, it would probably be Nashville and Winnipeg going to the 3rd round, but they're going to play each other in the 2nd. Those are the 2 teams for me in the West, and the 2 teams in the East are Tampa and Pittsburgh. Like, Toronto is good. They're going to be able to play with Boston. They're going to be able to play with the Leafs, but they just have such a tough path. They're going to play Boston first round or Tampa. Then they're going to play one of those other 2 teams if they win. Then they got to play most likely Pittsburgh, who's won 2 cups in a row. So it's an extremely tough path for them, and they still have some issues defensively. Like, their goalie has the most saves in the NHL by far. Like a couple hundred.
Well, maybe he's the best.
Guy. I've heard he's really good. He should get.
People tell me he's the best.
Yeah, and they're probably not wrong there when saying he is the best. He actually should get MVP consideration. Frederik Andersen. I think he's a phenomenal goalie, but he stops like 40, 50 pucks a night. Like that's not the recipe in the playoffs. Like that, you can't win games 5-4. They did a good job last year defensively against Washington, but they don't have that shutdown defenseman. Tampa went and got a shutdown defenseman in McDonough. The Leafs missed out on him. If the Leafs were to get McDonough, then I'm maybe changing my tune a little bit on Toronto.
So you mentioned Anaheim. Is Anaheim just going to be one of those teams in the playoffs again? Are the Kings in the playoffs right now?
They just beat Vegas on a home and home. They're close. They're right in that wild card
Can one
spot.
of those 2 teams
Calgary,
sneak in?
Anaheim.
For whatever reason, I always feel like it's almost like how San Jose would always just lose in the conference championship.
Yeah.
The conference finals?
Yep.
Whatever they call it in hockey?
Yep, conference
Do they still have the
finals.
Campbell Trophy?
Yeah, the Campbell and the Whales on either side, yeah.
But Anaheim just scares me every year in the playoffs. They just play well in the playoffs.
Yeah, and they were a great future bet. I have them at 24-1 because at the start of the season, Getzlaf got hurt, Perry got hurt, Kessler got hurt. Or Kessler actually didn't play until after Christmas.
They have Kessler?
Yeah, so like he had off-season surgery. So and both their defensemen and Vatanen and Lindholm didn't play the first month of the season. So they started off really, really slow, and now they're starting to roll. That's why I say like if Anaheim, and they're close to a playoff spot. They're right in there every other night. They're jumping around spots. But if they get into that wild card spot and they play Vegas first round, I mean, come on. We have Anaheim who just went to the 3rd round last year. They have all that experience, all that depth throughout the middle, all that defense. So that's why I would take an Anaheim over a Vegas. But Vegas was to play Calgary or Vegas was to play LA.
Oh, Calgary's in the mix?
Calgary is in the mix. Those teams are right in the mix. St. Louis was in the mix, and then they traded some guys. It looks like they're probably going to be the odd man out. So Vegas could get into a good spot where, they win around. But if they play Anaheim, no. And I don't think they would beat Winnipeg or Nashville either.
All right, so right now, the odds to win the Cup, the Lightning are the favorite, plus 450. Then the Predators at 6-1. The Bruins at 7-1. Is that just because they're the Bruins?
They've been really good, surprisingly good this season, but now they just lost Bergeron, who he fractured his foot.
Oh, Bergeron got hurt. Big shocker.
Yeah, so, I mean, they need him to do some damage. Again, that's just, the East it's just such a tough path. It really is. For Boston, again, they play Toronto first round. Sure, they get by Toronto. Then they got to play Tampa. Then they got to play Pittsburgh. So I'm not completely buying into Boston.
The Vegas is 7.5-1. The Leafs are 11-1. The Jets are 12-1. The Penguins are 15-1.
Why not? Like, honestly, they've won 2 straight cups. They're stacked down the middle. They got Crosby and Malkin. They just picked up Derek Brassard. They got all these youngsters. The one thing with Pittsburgh is goaltending. I mean, Matt Murray has been hurt into the lineup. I know they didn't want to lose Fleury, but that's what was good. Murray got hurt, and Fleury came in last year in the playoffs and did really well. And they were just waiting for Fleury to have that one bad game to go back to Murray. And that's what happened. Fleury had that. Fleury was the only reason they beat Washington in that round. Then he has that one bad game against Ottawa, and then they go right back to Murray, and Murray's great. And now Murray's hurt again. And it's like the third time he's hurt. He's out indefinitely with a concussion. And last night, Boston put up 8 goals on their 2 backups. So, like, that's the one concern I have with Pittsburgh. But there's no way they should be 15-1. I mean, Nashville, I got at 14-1 to start the year.
That's not bad.
It's solid.
You live cash that out right now for like 2-1 on your money. Capitals 15-1. Flyers 15-1.
The Flyers been the best team in the NHL the past 2 months.
Are the Capitals in the playoffs right now?
Yeah.
Is it going to be one of these years? Because I feel like this happens with random teams. Like the moment you finally give up on the team, and the fact that they're not in first place this year, that they're just going to come in like, oh, there's no chance Washington does anything in the playoffs. And then this is the year Ovechkin just goes nuts and wins.
You're right, and we see that a lot in sports. That's the year everybody's out on them, and then they're joggling. It's Pittsburgh, Washington, and Philly. They're jumping each other.
But they're all in.
They're all in. Philly has made a real nice push, but I don't like their playoff chances. They're just not deep enough as a team. But they're just jumping all around. But the thing with Washington is, you're going to have to play Pittsburgh. And they just have never been able to beat Pittsburgh. And Holtby's been brutal this year. Backstrom's had a down year. Ovechkin's been fine. Everyone said Ovechkin's done last year because he only had like 37 goals. He's already passed that total this year. He's fine. He's the best goal scorer in the NHL. But yeah, this is the year if you want to take a flyer on Washington. I don't see it personally. I think they have some issues, but they lost a lot of D-men, a couple of them to Vegas as well.
What happened to Andrew Kuss' Stanley Cup winner pick of the Edmonton Oilers? You can currently bet them at 400-1.
So I had the Oilers missing the playoffs. I was like the only one, I feel like, Drew, you know Drew Livingstone. I think he just says shit for the sake of saying shit.
I remember you getting into it with Pete Jensen.
Well, he had the Oilers as the cup, right? And to me, I think they're a one-line team. They got McDavid, they got Draisaitl, and they had a good goalie. And we're seeing that this year. I mean, Lucic is so slow. He's doing nothing. He's got another 6 years, I think, left on his deal. Nugent Hopkins got hurt again. They rode Talbot all year long and played him so much that he just got hurt this year, and they had no backup, nobody at all to replace it when he missed time. The Oilers have a lot of issues, and next year McDavid is going to go from making $3 million to $12.5, so that's another like almost $10 million on top of your books.
At least he's good.
He's phenomenal. Don't get me wrong.
So pay him the $12 million. Don't pay Kirk Cousins the $28 million.
The Oilers we're talking about the Oilers being another lottery team. This is a team who can get another first overall pick, which is crazy to think about. I just thought that they were a one-line team, and I thought way too much hype. They made it to the second round last year. So what?
And they're going to win the cup. They're going to play the Leafs in the finals.
That's everybody's prediction. Like 90% of the predictions out there was it's because they have flashy players like McDavid and Matthews and
you hear about them all the time.
You hear about them all the time, and they're on the up and up. The Leafs are fine. They're a good team. They're gonna compete. I just don't like the path.
Okay, so best goalies right now. You're a Habs fan, they're not making the playoffs.
No, not even close.
But it seems like at least when the Habs are bad, they're actively bad.
Yeah,
that's always a good thing.
It is. A couple of years ago, they got Sergachev in 9th overall because everybody got hurt and they were bad. Price and PK got hurt. A couple of years before that, it was a lockout shortened year, the brutal year. They got 3rd overall pick. This year, not so many injuries for excuses. They're just bad. It's really bad defensively. Like the GM put them in a bad
Is Carey Price hurt? Or is he
Price is hurt. Like he was hurt at the start of the year, and then he's hurt now. Weber was hurt. The defense is just atrocious. It's brutal.
How you feeling about that Weber PK trade?
It's awful. You know I hated it from day one. I hated it. I couldn't stand it. I think we chatted about it before.
I think we did like the day of. Yeah,
it's devastated. Still to this day, like I never understood the deal at all. And PK is just he could win a Norris Trophy this year. He's been great.
He's been great. And
he leads Predators in points.
But just to think about it from like a marketing perspective,
yeah.
Like PK is one of the few recognizable hockey players.
Everybody knows him.
Everyone knows him. And, I mean, part of that is because he's black and he plays hockey. I mean, there are very few black hockey players. Sure. But he's also the most, active on social media. He's the one that gives good interviews. Like, these other, talking to Crosby is not the most interesting thing in the world.
No.
At all. Like, no one wants to talk to that guy.
Nobody does. Yeah, you're right. PK is...
He's fun.
He is fun.
Like, Ovechkin is fun. And people hate Ovechkin for some reason, but he's actually fun.
He's fun, you're right. And PK, I mean, he does a lot, too. Obviously, we know everything about Montreal and the hospital and stuff, but he does everything in Nashville. I mean, he put on some disguise and walked around as like a 70-year-old, pretend to be a 7-year-old guy in Nashville, was like handing out tickets and money to random people, and nobody even recognized him. He just does a lot of stuff for the community, and man, PK is... I mean, and on top of that, he's a phenomenal defenseman.
Yeah, and he's good. That helps.
And he's good, so that helps. Like, he rubs people the wrong way a little bit, but...
With what, though? Like, I mean, I don't pay close enough attention that I only probably see the good parts, but he's the only part... The only thing, like, if you're going to be, like, watching... If anything shows up in my feed, because I don't follow very many hockey people, I have a few people being like, what are the line combinations tonight for DFS? Other than that, it's something PK does, or it's some, like, hideous hit from behind or a fight.
Yeah, you know, when he first started coming in, when he first got into the league, he just played hard and people didn't like it. Like, respected guys just didn't like it. I didn't understand that. He just played hard, like, and that was it. He celebrated on goals and people didn't like it. I mean, guys were squirting water bottles from the bench into his face. Like, that happened in a playoff game once.
So what you're saying is that the inherent racism of the NHL was cropping its head up. Big
A
shocker.
little bit, yeah. And we're seeing a lot of that lately with some guys, Devontae Smith-Pelly and stuff. But for PK in the finals last year, he joked at Crosby. There was a game against Pittsburgh where they won at the end, and PK went over and said something to Crosby as Crosby was leaving the ice. He just chirped him a little bit, right? So what? He's having some fun. Trying to get him off his game.
As you do.
Right, exactly. Trying to get him off his game. And then they asked PK after. Of course, they would only ask PK. Like, nobody else they would ask this. But PK will talk. And like you said, people like PK. So then they asked him, what did you go say to Crosby? He's like, well, I just told him his breath stinks. Like, he needs some Listerine. And then it was all about Listerine. PK walks to the arena the next game with a bag full of 50 bottles of Listerine, and he's just having some fun. Like, and that rubs some people the wrong way. Some people in Nashville said, you know, they would have liked PK not to talk about that and don't stir up the best player in the world and Crosby and all that. But it's just nonsense.
Was
It doesn't matter.
Was Crosby not trying before that? Was that the whole case?
What's funny about that is the next game Crosby has a 4-point game and they win, and then it's kind of history.
Crosby's
Whatever,
good.
Crosby's good. But that's what I mean. Like, I'm not saying that I agree with it, but that's what I mean when people just...
That just reeks of not only hockey media, but specifically Canadian hockey media. Which is just the worst thing on earth.
And jealousy. Nashville went into Montreal a couple weeks ago, and after the game, they asked a couple of Montreal players about PK, and one of them snapped. Why does it always have to be about PK? PK. You guys ask me about PK all the time. PK hasn't played here in 2 years. PK wants this to be about PK. I'm sure if you go into the room, he'll have a couple great quotes from you. Like, so people know the act.
I feel like he gets it, though.
He does.
He understands how this works and how to be seen.
At the end of the day, it was just a bad trade. It didn't make any sense. You're trading a guy at 27, entering your prime for a guy who's 31, has 10 years left on his deal.
And when's the next lockout?
This is the thing.
By the way, 10-year contracts.
It's going to be in a couple years.
Yeah,
you see, when you see the contracts that came out, McDavid and Price's contracts, both got signed this past year on like 10-year, $100 million deals. Like, Price is making $10 million next year, 10.5. It's all heavy front loaded, and it's all bonuses.
Is this just knowing like there's going to be a lockout and we're not going to have to end up paying this? Like,
everybody knows.
Who are you signing to 10 years?
Yeah. No one. Especially from Montreal's standpoint. A goalie who's going to be 31 years old for a team who cannot score any goals. You're going to invest all your money on Weber and Price. It's not smart. It just never was a good trade. I'll never like it.
Did you watch much of the Olympics?
I did.
Hockey-wise?
Yeah. I did.
I felt like, because I wasn't really talking to anyone about the Olympics. I didn't watch much about it, but generally speaking, it seemed like people really didn't care about the hockey.
No, well, why should you? It was brutal hockey.
Oh, no, I was told that, with these amateurs competing, they really want it. It means so much to them, and it turned out the average fan could not have cared less.
No, it was brutal hockey, and some of the games are at 7 in the morning. Some of them at 11 at night. The women's hockey was better than the men's.
But do you think that the time zone really, because it seemed like for the women's hockey final, everyone woke up to watch it.
Sure, everyone, because it was actually better hockey, to be honest with you. That's the end of I think that's the bottom line. I think your average hockey fan, would have woken up at 7 in the morning. Or watched it.
To watch players they'd actually heard of?
Yeah.
Within the past 5 years? Not washed up NHLers from 10 years ago?
No disrespect to,
Wojciech Wolski?
Yeah, who was a good story. The guy broke his neck a couple of years ago. He's played good story. but an average hockey player.
Rather see Crosby.
Rather see Crosby. Rather see Crosby and McDavid. Rather see for the people in America. Rather see Matthews and Patrick Kane and Eichel and some of these guys. So I mean Patrick Laine over on the other side in Finland. It's just Ovechkin. There's a lot of it was very mediocre. And some guys actually got some contracts out of that. Brian Giunta. You know Brian Giunta. You've heard that name before. Retired in the NHL 2 years ago.
I thought Brian Giunta was on like a 17-year deal from Minnesota.
So he was the captain of Team USA. Apparently impressed the Bruins in that tournament that Boston went out and signed him. And he got a couple points the other night, which is crazy to think about. Chris Kelly, captain of Team Canada. The Ducks went out and signed him. A couple guys got contracts out of there, but at the end of the day, the hockey was brutal. Watching Russia was nice because you had Kovalchuk.
Because they had real players?
They had real players. Kovalchuk there. They had a couple guys that they've drafted.
I didn't realize that, and I wish that I had known this before the tournament. Like, what was Russia paying to win? Like, they should have been favored, but if they were playing, if it wasn't in the minus, it was like even money or better. Like, I wish I had have known that and looked at it and known that they were the only ones sending real players and be like, oh, I'm just gonna bet them. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
And you know how much some of those players really care about, like they care about that more than winning Stanley Cups.
Yeah.
Like Kovalchuk said that after. He's like, I care more about winning a gold medal than a Stanley Cup. That's why I left the NHL. And that's why I didn't go back to the NHL because NHL, they weren't allowing their players to play.
I feel like this hurt the NHL.
Absolutely, it hurt the NHL.
It hurt it, and in Canada, the NHL is always going to be fine. It kills it in America. I mean, it doesn't kill it in America. It stunts it in America, the growth, which you want to see because no one cared. At least when Canada played the U.S. in like the gold final, everyone watched it. You got familiar with the players. Now just no one cared.
Yeah, they want to sell their game. That's all Bettman talks about is selling their game and some of their young players, and he refused to go over there. It made no sense. From a business standpoint, I didn't really get it. I understand like the Olympic Committee and
I get that you
want some money. I understand.
And I get that you don't want your guys to get hurt.
Yeah.
But if you're really trying to push the game and make it bigger, why not showcase your best players on the biggest stage possible?
Exactly. Yeah, it didn't make any sense. And there's so many good young players in today's game that it just would have been a fun, exciting tournament. It wasn't. It was brutal to watch.
Best 5 goalies.
In the NHL right now?
Yeah.
I still think Carey Price is the top 5 goalie in the NHL. He's having a bad year.
Take your homerism out of it. Let's move on.
Braden Holtby.
On Washington?
Having a bad year, but I still think he's a top 5 goalie in the NHL. I may have to put Frederik Andersen in there, man. What he's done this year.
What happened to Henrik Lundqvist?
Well, Lundqvist he was on the bust list, but one of the guys I got read about is the bust list. I was wrong about a couple, but Lundqvist is just old, man. He's like 36 now. He's 36, 37. The Rangers are rebuilding. No, he's not a top goalie anymore. Pekka Rinne, I think, is a top goalie. That's why I got Nashville was my team to win the Cup last year. They lost in the finals. They're my team to win the Cup this year, heading into the year. I'm not changing my tune. I think that they're the best team in the NHL. So that's led by Pekka Rinne. And then it's just...
Who's hot that week?
Yeah, like Hellebuck has had a nice year. I'm not ready to put him as a top 5 goalie. Matt Murray has shown signs, but he's not a top 5 goalie. Sergei Bobrovsky is in... I mean, he's won the Vezina a couple times, won it last year. I think he's a top 5 goalie in NHL, and then after that, it's just Andrei Vasilevsky's having a good year, but like he's only played 1 year. Like he's having a great year. So he may win Vezina, but are we ready to say he's a top 5 goalie?
So what you're saying is that he could be the new Jim Carrey net detective?
Yeah, he may be
Vezina
a little bit better.
winner.
He may have a second good year, but yeah, Jim Carrey, the one-hit wonder, he was phenomenal that year. But no, Vasilevsky, I'd say he's in the top 5. But I mean, some guys that are having tough years like Price and Holtby, I still think these guys are top 5 goalies.
It can happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's bad defense. That's what it is. I mean, if anybody that's watched Montreal, I mean, you take Weber away from the team. I mean, Weber's the guy you just traded for. You take Weber away and you're just playing with scrubs and you're allowing a ton of offensive chances every single night. It doesn't matter who you put in the net. It's not Price's fault. Price is fine.
What's going on with my poor Vancouver Canucks? Why are they so bad?
It's just a rebuild. And
who's their goalie now?
Oh, they got like a ton. Markstrom is one guy, and Nielsen. They're in a rebuilding process. When they lost in the finals that year to Boston, that was their window. The Sedins are a little bit older, and now
they still have the Sedins.
They still
How old are the Sedins?
So what, I don't know, probably
90.
It feels like they are. They're probably mid-30s, but they're obviously a 1-2 package. You can't deal them.
Why can't you though?
You should be able to, but I don't know. Like nobody wants them for one. Like they're past their prime.
Do they have no value left though?
Yeah,
they can't be the savvy veteran on a cup-winning team.
No, I think maybe like Daniel. If you pick Daniel, he's the goal scorer. Like if you were, it's really weird. I was always wondering if how they would do away from each other. They've never ever been away from each other. They've always played together. They've always played on the same lines. They're actually producing over the past couple of weeks, but it's just Vancouver's in a rebuild process. They're not going to trade them. They're just going to die in that team, basically. You know what I mean? Like they're gone from first line guys to second line guys. A little bit of power play. Next year they'll be third line guys, and they're just wear out their contract there, and that's just the way it is. They have Vancouver has some nice young pieces. Bo Horvat, Brock Besser. Like they have some good young players. They're just in the rebuilding.
They're just not close.
If you go look at the standings, all the Canadian teams basically suck,
except for Winnipeg.
And Toronto. Montreal sucks. Calgary's in a playoff spot right now. They'll fight. Edmonton sucks. Vancouver sucks. Ottawa sucks. They all suck. They're all in the very same situation.
Is Ottawa going to lose their team?
Yeah, well, they're going to lose one of the best players in the NHL, Carlson.
Yeah, why are they just randomly getting rid of him?
There's like I don't know. For one, they seem cheap. Their owner seems cheap. Melnyk he doesn't seem like he wants to spend the money. They're losing guys left, right, and center.
Well, they need this new stadium, don't they?
They do. They need a new arena.
That's not an hour outside of town.
Canada. It's in the middle of nowhere. So that's one. They need arena downtown, and they don't want to spend. They don't want to spend on money. Let's be honest. They're cheap. Their owner's cheap. They don't want to spend on guys. And for Karlsson, like, why would you want to play there?
I don't understand the point of owning a sports franchise in any sport if you're going to be cheap about it. Why buy the sports franchise? Isn't it like a novelty, fun thing to own?
Yeah.
Or like, is Eugene? I mean, clearly he's a good businessman. He has a ton of money. Yeah. Why, if this is going to be a losing proposition, like you're going to grind out $7 million a year from your NHL team, just sell it to someone who wants to spend money.
Absolutely.
Remember when Jim Balsillie was all in? Sell it to fucking Kevin O'Leary. Who cares? Just someone's going to spend.
Absolutely. I mean, and Ottawa's had some nice young people. They were a goal away from going to the Stanley Cup Finals last year. They lost to Pittsburgh in Game 7 in overtime. Like, and now they're one of the worst teams in the NHL. And for Karlsson, and he's already said, him and Doughty are free agents after next year, and they said, listen, you want to talk contract with us? We're starting with PK, what PK makes. He's won a Norris, we won a Norris, we won at least double digit, we won at least $10 million.
Well, is he the best defenseman in the NHL?
Karlsson?
Yeah.
I don't think.
Top 3?
Yes.
Okay. So he's going to get that money.
So yeah, he deserves it. He's going to get it, and that's probably it. Like Ottawa doesn't want to pay him $12 million. They're cheaping out. So if you're Ottawa, you got to trade this guy. You don't want to really, but you got to trade him. And if you're Karlsson, I'm not signing here for a hometown discount. Are you kidding me? I'm getting what I deserve. So trade me. You know what I mean? Like you got to flip me. And he almost got dealt. And apparently the closest team was Vegas.
Really?
Yeah, and wouldn't that have been crazy? I mean, Vegas has all these. They have the amount of cap space to acquire.
They can send back expiring contracts.
Ottawa's whole deal is we need to get rid of Bobby Ryan. He makes $7.5 million. He's broke his hand 5 times in the last 2 years. We can't afford to have this guy and he's got another 6 years left. So we'll take on Bobby Ryan.
These contracts.
I know the contracts are
so ludicrous.
They're ridiculous. I agree. They're nuts. And so. For Bobby Ryan,
they're like those early 2000s NBA contracts. Like, oh, here, Juwan Howard, 8 years, $400 million.
Or recently, like Mozgov and Dellavedova. Chandler Parsons blows out his knee 2 straight years, max.
At least those are like 3-year deals.
Yeah, true. 3 years.
It's not going to be affecting us next decade.
Yeah, so you look at Bobby Ryan, he makes $6.5 million. He's honestly broke his hand 5 times in the past couple seasons. He doesn't play. So that's what Ottawa's thinking is like, will you take on Bobby Ryan's contract? And Vegas is in that situation where they have all this cap space and all these picks that they can go ahead and they can do something like that. It's a move that's going to happen in the offseason. The writing's on the wall. And all these reports came out, and you can only buy into them so much.
Fake news.
But Melnyk has got this label that he's a cheap owner, right? I mean, he sells his guys, he doesn't want to pay his guys. Apparently there's this feud in the locker room with him and Karlsson, and Melnyk called out Karlsson over a $350 Uber ride. So you're going to just lose your franchise player because of a $350 Uber ride? Apparently, Karlsson owed him his money. He used a the company credit card, and it was like a $350 Uber ride, and Melnyk's pissed off about it, wants to lose franchise player over it. Like, that can't be true. Like, that can't be true. But that just goes to show, like, these guys are the direction of the players in the organization, and it's just, and the GM is in a tough spot. He's got to trade this guy.
Yeah, I mean, when you have your owner telling you what to do, what are you supposed to do?
What are you supposed to do? You're supposed to flip this guy when you know you're never going to get proper return. It's like Patrick Waugh, right? I want to get traded. You get traded a week later in Montreal, and they got nothing for him.
And
he
then
was
you
the
got-
best goalie in the NHL.
Then you had to play Red Light Rasico for like 3 years.
His neck was burnt for 3 years, letting in all these
He was
goals.
so bad.
Yeah, just awful. So that'd be interesting where Carlson goes. Who knows?
All right, let's finish this up. Let's talk League of Leagues for a second. If people do not know what the League of Leagues is, it's a league started by my man Toby Mergler, Jonah Carey, and Dave Damashek. It's 3 sports in one: baseball, football, basketball. When we go to the draft, you can draft whoever you want with the number 1 pick. We found out that drafting basketball players is usually the safest bet because we do the draft in March, and it runs for the entire season. So our draft that we did last March, we're still playing out the basketball season right now. You are my partner in this league. We did well in baseball.
Yeah, we did.
Poorly in football.
We did, yeah.
And we're not doing great in basketball.
No, we're not doing good in basketball. We got burned. We got burned in the NBA. Like you said, we went early. I mean, we took Kevin Durant, who missed some time.
And then we
that
took
hurt
Gobert
us.
with the second
And we took
pick.
Rudy Gobert. And when you take a guy that early, I mean, that Rudy Gobert is, we counted, when we drafted him, we were winning rebounds and we were winning blocks. And Rudy Gobert missed so much time that we're actually like second in blocks still.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like the blocks have been fine, but Gobert missed some time.
But the
and it
big
didn't
thing
pan
this
out.
year is the first year I did the league, we ran it for 2 years. Now we still do the draft every year and we get 6 keepers. So the first year I had the 14th of 14th picks, which sucks in a league like this because the most elite players at every sport are gone by the time it gets to you. Now you get 2 really good players, obviously, but you miss out on that like game changer type player. Last year I think we had the 12th pick. And we got Durant. This year we got the 3rd pick.
We got the 3rd, so
So we're going to have who are the 3 best fantasy basketball guys now?
it's Giannis, Harden, and LeBron.
So we'll get one of those 3.
Yeah. And LeBron, like, this guy's having a career at this age. And it's funny, people, I know this is the old, and when I say the old, it's category based. The NBA came out with a new scoring system this year for fantasy to try to attract more fantasy.
Ours is still rotisserie categories.
And then the new scoring system is just points. So like a point, 1.2 for rebound, 1.5 for assists.
Okay, so it's set up like DraftKings.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. So LeBron, when doing drafts this year, LeBron was going like 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. I got him 11th overall in a draft. And he, every single night, he's like the best player in the NBA. It's him, Giannis, and Harden. They're the guys they average about 60, with the new scoring system, 60 fantasy points a night. So after those 3, like Curry's taking a hit this year. KD is probably the next guy in line. Klay Thompson's taking a huge hit, and the new scoring system has not benefited.
But we're not playing that.
But we're not playing it. But that's who we'll get. We'll get one of those 3.
Should we think Trout?
Oh, are the first 3 picks?
Yeah.
You know, I'm all right with that.
Yeah, I know you are.
You know what's funny about Trout, though?
Well, here's the thing. Let's give out our keepers. Maybe people can respond to this.
Sure.
So,
sure.
if
We're
you-
set at pitching when you.
Yeah. So we have Kluber,
We got Kluber, Carrasco,
and
Strasburg,
and then we kept. Who was the basketball player we kept?
and we kept Baron Gordon for like a.
Baron Gordon for a 38th round.
Aaron Gordon for like a
38th
round.
And then we kept Fournette, who was our rookie pick.
Yeah. So and then we have Jose Ramirez.
Jose Ramirez in the 14th round.
Who's
Kluber's the only like
second
high pick. He's like a 6th round pick, I think, 5th round pick.
Fifth,
which is where he would go. But
Yeah,
having 3 aces are pretty.
We
good.
made that deal. We got Kluber and Arenado for I don't even know what, but that move not only could keep us Kluber for this year, got like 2nd in the baseball.
Yeah, we ended up.
It was huge.
It was just like when we traded for Pujols because we needed RBI.
Yeah, I think we traded Calvin Herrera for Pujols. We got some RBIs. We got
And it
Trey
worked.
Bruce. Yeah, it worked.
Every move we made in baseball worked because
yeah.
we were the back.
I wish
and
we
just
could keep our team in baseball. It was phenomenal. It was so good.
Well, I mean, but what do we
yeah.
do now? Like we're keeping 1 basketball player, 1 football player. And football's so hard to draft in March because it's before the NFL draft.
I know.
So in this league, you can draft your supplemental spot. So, I mean, I think we did it right last year because everyone kind of spaced on it. And we drafted our supplemental pick, the 1st overall pick in the rookie draft at like the 10th round, I think it was. And that's how we got Fournette. But
Football's tough, like you said. It's so early.
Yeah.
Like when we left that draft, we had Parker, Devontae Parker. I'm like, oh, we got Parker, just gonna stay healthy. Got Kenny Britt. Kenny Britt's gonna be okay. You know what I mean? We had some of these players that were gonna be given these opportunities.
We punted football. We took
Julio.
We took Julio in the 3rd. We took Carlos Hyde in like the 8th.
Yeah.
And then we didn't take another football player for ages. Yeah. And if Julio had been good, we would have been all right.
Score touchdowns. He didn't. Yeah, he didn't score. Hyde was phenomenal. Hyde was great. We had Winston as a quarterback, and obviously he got hurt, and he was not good. I like him this year. I'm going on Winston.
Go back in on Winston. So like we're probably gonna go basketball or Trout. Do you think Trey Turner would make it back to us in the second round?
No, people love Trey Turner so much. It's the stolen bases. This guy goes like, I've seen him go second overall in drafts.
So do you think we go NBA and because
I think we go
because
NBA.
Adam Rank went NBA, 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 NBA to start his draft last year.
know.
I hope he's winning.
I don't know. And yeah, he did. He took NBA.
The first 5 rounds.
Yeah, you're right. The first 5.
And so did James Go.
And then I think he took like a football, and then he went back to NBA for like 2 or 3 more. I think we take one of the NBA guys. Like obviously I want Trout. Trout's nice. But I think we take one of those 3 NBA to have one of those 3, those legit. Because after that, what I've learned from the NBA this year is like after those first like dozen guys, it's just so mediocre. It is. Like guys are not playing every day. They're so inconsistent. Injuries are happening. Just to get one of those top 3, you're ahead of the curve. You're ahead of everybody, basically. I mean, you put LeBron or Harden or Giannis on one of our teams, we're fine. I mean, these guys are touching all categories, and we can just fill it out elsewhere. What's funny thing about Trout is that last year he was having a career before he went down. Like people just assume like Trout is obviously he's so good. The numbers are so good. But he was on pace to shatter every single number he had ever done, and he still finished with like the best on base percentage,
except for the steals.
slugging.
The steals are actually
the steals, but they were up from a year ago. Like he was stealing bags, but the home runs he was right on. He was with Judge. They had the exact same amount of home runs when he went down. Every category is just, and now he's like ending with that 27. It's actually scary how good Trout is.
So the 3rd pick, maybe Trout.
I mean, if
we had Trout without that pitching staff and Jose Ramirez, I feel like we're doing okay.
we probably yeah.
I mean, it's hard to say that you can't just say at the beginning of the year,
just
I'm going to win baseball.
Right, you can't.
But we're off to a good head start.
But to have Kluber, Strasburg, and Carrasco, and we put back Darvish. I mean, we could have kept Darvish. We put him back in there. So
I didn't see the need to keep all 4.
There was no need. And to keep all those guys, you got to think you were in a good spot. We have the best pitching staff. No matter what, we're going to have the best pitching staff. We have 3 legitimate top 10 guys, right?
Yeah.
All 3 of those guys are my top 10 rankings. So we have legitimate top 3 guys. They're all good in ratios. They all can strike out guys. You want Chase wins, but they all play for phenomenal teams. They're all going to get wins. So
we need to get a closer.
We can get a closer. I mean, we can get one of those guys late. They always seem to pop up.
I mean, with our team, I would almost want to. I don't think I'd want to reach on like Kenley Jansen.
No, but we can still probably get a top 10 guy. I mean, we can get like a Giles or a.
So that probably means we don't take Trout then.
Yeah, I don't think we need to. Jose Ramirez, we have him, and he's another guy that just touches all categories.
Well, what I'm thinking is because by the time we pick in the second round, it's going to be what? Pick 14, 28, 25, pick 26. Yeah. Goldschmidt might be there.
Yeah.
And I know people are really down because of the humidor, but I think that he's a good stabilizer if we go basketball first round. Yeah. But then I'm thinking like, who else would be available to like in the second, third round turn? Like I'm trying to plan out because we have 1 football player. Did we wait too long on football last year? Did we say, hey, in the third round, let's take fucking Beckham?
Yeah, I think what happened was just like you said with Julio. Like we took Julio and we were fine, but it was a standard league for one.
Yeah.
And like all those catches don't matter. And
yeah, like Robert Woods was our best receiver when he was healthy.
Yeah, and Julio just didn't score touchdowns. And going ahead and next year, like Julio, I'm not in on Julio, man. Like I can't trust Julio. I can't trust Matt Ryan, that offense, and I don't know.
I think it might actually be a decent buying spot for Julio.
It could
because everyone's really out.
Yeah, I'm not taking him third overall.
It was like
if he falls to 6 or 7.
It was the anti-Mike Evans from last year. Where Mike
That's
Evans is going to be the number 1 receiver. It's like, no, he's not. It makes no.
I remember we had this conversation.
All the logic that pointed to him having the big year 2 years ago is now absolutely out the window. He's not going to get 70% of the targets anymore, and he's a pure volume guy.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen. Mike Evans was fine.
Yeah, but
he wasn't good.
No, he didn't return value.
He was about the 20th best receiver. I think he lost to Dez.
Yeah.
The narrative is Dez sucks, but he outscored Mike Evans. Like, oh, okay. Or they were like within 10 points of each other. Yeah. It's like, okay.
I think we take a basketball player because we have Jose Ramirez and because we have all those top tier pitchers. You got to think like those are guys that would have been going like early, right?
Sure.
And for Ramirez, it's a guy that touches a lot of categories, right? He's going to give you a good average. He's going to steal bags. He's got home run.
Garion told me he could win the batting title.
Jose Ramirez?
Yeah.
Sign me up for that. The reason we have Jose Ramirez is because I had such a big heart on for him last year.
That's true.
Jose Ramirez is legit. He's great. He could win the batting title. He's a phenomenal hitter. He's patient at the plate. And like I said, I just love those guys that touch all those categories.
And one of the good things, I had Rob Silver in here a few weeks ago, and him and Vlad are out this year.
Oh, they were the ones.
They were the ones who won baseball. So
now
now
we're
we're primed.
Yeah, he probably likes himself a little Jose Ramirez too.
He hates Paul Goldschmidt.
Why?
Because of the humidor.
The humidor. I mean, sure, there's some reports, 15 to 20% is a pretty big drop-off.
In home runs, though, but it's not like you're going to find another first baseman who steals bases
right.
against 300.
That's the thing. Like, he's still going to hit home runs. He's still going to play some games in quarters. He's still going to go up against some mediocre pitcher in the NL. Yeah, like he's fine. Maybe the home runs dip a little bit, but I mean, like you said, the average is going to be good, and he's going to steal bags. Like, Goldschmidt's fine. Like, I'll take the discount on Goldschmidt.
So, basketball player, it sounds like we're going to get LeBron.
Is there
someone who's better than LeBron?
Well, no, LeBron's best player in
No, like in terms of fantasy. Like I would think that Giannis and Harden are just better. Like, do we take Westbrook?
I would take,
because if this is LeBron's like basically career year statistically.
Yeah.
And I don't want to bet against LeBron not continuing to do it. It just seems like Westbrook's safer.
Yeah, Westbrook his numbers have decreased just slightly. He's not that like triple-double machine anymore. He's still getting them, but
like in fantasy this year, was he the 5th best player?
Yeah, he is. He started off really slow. I mean, it just took some time with him and Melo and George to, there's only one basketball and there's 3 like ball hogs. But like both of those guys could be gone and Westbrook could be back to being a triple-double machine. We don't know about LeBron either. Like, we really don't know. Like, this guy he can go play in Philadelphia. I really truly believe that.
He's not.
But he could, and he really could. And this guy's like he played the 76ers the other night, and all he had like just pumped Simmons tires and Embiid, and he could. I don't think he will, but he certainly could. And this draft is so soon. It's just a guessing game, right?
Yeah, well, it's 2 weeks away. That's why I'm like.
I'm fine with if you wanted to do Westbrook.
How high is Ben Simmons gonna go? He seems to be like a stat stuffer.
He is a stat stuffer, but he's going to hurt your field goal percentage. He can't shoot the basketball right now. He's like, people are...
Well, maybe he gets better.
Over time, sure, he probably is. But, hack a Shaq, they're hacking Simmons. Like, they hack Simmons because he can't hit a free throw and he just can't shoot. But he is a category stuffer. He can block, he can get you steals, assists, the triple-double machine as well, but not that early. I mean, I'm fine with any of those guys. I think Giannis will be the first pick. We'll like Giannis, and we'll go Harden, and then we'll have our choice if we want to go Westbrook or we want to go LeBron. Or Trout, but I think we take one of those NBA guys.
Yeah.
It probably makes most sense.
Well, they have the most influence on the league. That's why the basketball players all go inside the first round, because one really good basketball player can carry you. And if you don't have one of them, it's really hard to make those stats.
Yeah, exactly. So we get one of those top 3, top 4, whether it's Westbrook or not, and then you're ahead of the game.
I don't know if it was the first pick. Let's see if we can trade with him. It's like, we'll take the first pick. We'll just swap picks first and second round. You don't want to pick first and last in the round. You want to pick 3rd and 26th instead of 1st and 28th. That'd be crazy.
Start wheeling and dealing.
I wonder who it is.
Just start wheeling and dealing.
Send them an email right now.
The 3rd pick is nice.
I'm happy I finally have a higher end pick.
Because you're right.
Oh my God, I missed out on like 8,000 emails of people submitting their keepers.
I know, it's a huge list, and to be honest, I've been going through those keepers.
Everyone is just lipping Damashek for his terrible baseball and basketball team. The entire email thread.
So, because a lot of these players, some of them are being kept. Like some of these guys that are the hot, picks this year, like the Hoskins and the Olsen and Ramirez, obviously. He's
Aaron Judge, 37th round. That's pretty good.
Aaron Judge, like a lot of these guys that had good years, obviously you're paying for them in redraft leagues. You're paying for Aaron Judge this year off the 1 year. You're paying for Jose Ramirez. I think Jose Ramirez is legit, but you're paying for those guys. So where they're keepers in this league, right?
Yeah. So and you only get 6. You can keep any 6 players from across the 3 sports, but you only get 6.
Yeah, like Ramirez. If Ramirez wasn't kept, for example, he would probably
be a second
for a baseball. In terms of baseball players going, second round. In terms of baseball players going, he's probably like a top 10 pick.
Yeah, and with all the keepers in this league, there aren't a lot of like first round keepers. No. Like Alvin Kamara is really the only. Is Alvin Kamara? Because I was talking to Rank about this. He has Alvin Kamara at number 1 overall player next year. Wow. I thought that was more hot takey than anything. Yeah. But I started thinking about it like, if you had to choose right now, and maybe this is a position that will end up being at the back end of the second round. Let's say Kamara was on the board. And David Johnson was on the board, and Le'Veon Bell was on the board. Which one do you take?
I would take Bell.
It's a standard league, though.
I would still take Bell.
I think
over what, between him and Johnson? Or are you talking Zeke
and Kamara in that mix, too.
And would Zeke be in that mix?
I don't think Zeke's in that mix. I think Zeke might be the best value because I think he's going to drop down a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think for standard scoring, he's a little bit
standard. Yeah,
I don't think that he's better than those guys in terms of standard scoring, but I think that he's the one who's affected the least by what his numbers are his numbers in standard.
I like Zeke better than David Johnson.
Really?
Yeah, in standard. I do.
I don't think I do. Because David Johnson's going to have like 90 catches for 1,000 yards. Those yards still count.
Those yards do still count, but Zeke can also catch too. Like his I know he was obviously suspended, but he was catching more than he did.
But that's not a part of their game plan. Like
it's not, but he could still catch 60 balls. He could still, I still think he could.
That's a lot of balls.
I know, but what, 4 or 5 a game?
Yeah, but there's going to be a game where he gets like 7, then there's a game he gets like 1. With Bell and David Johnson, it's like,
more consistent.
Well, let's pencil in at least 5 and see where it goes from there. Because they might end up with 13 catch days.
Yeah, and
I know that you don't get the full point for the PPR, but you are still getting all those extra opportunities to score, all the extra yardage, everything like that. And those guys, I mean, Zeke doesn't come off the field either. That'd be my one. Is Ingram coming back?
It sounds like it. He could opt out if he was like all pro. I know a lot of people think he's a free agent. He's not a free agent.
I thought he was for some reason.
No, he had to be.
He told me to stop hating on him.
He had a good year, Pat.
That's great. Everyone should draft Mark Ingram.
And everyone's going to be let down. Everyone's going to let down from Ingram.
Mark Ingram, top 5 pick. I can't wait to win my league.
It was a good 1-2 punch. Like Ingram alone.
There's no way that could be sustainable.
No, and that's my problem with Kamara. Go look at the touches. You know, he had like 200 fewer touches than Gurley.
Are you telling me that, well, is Gurley the #1 player?
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
I just totally spaced on Gurley, but are you telling me that Alvin Kamara is not going to average 8 yards a carry next year?
No, man, what he did, so impressive, and I do think he's legit. I think he's phenomenal. But
well, he doesn't trip over the 2-yard line.
He doesn't trip over the 2.
He doesn't just randomly run into the back of his offensive lineman for no reason.
He can catch. He's explosive. He's elusive. Everything you want from a running back. And people don't think that he could be like
every down guy.
And I do. I actually do. I think having Ingram there helps. I mean, it's nice to have, and that's the way the NFL is.
But the thing is, if you're paying Ingram already, and listen, obviously,
Ingram is not going to return value this year.
I have lost all objectivity when it comes to Mark Ingram. I think everyone knows that. But if you're going to pay Kamara, who's better than Mark Ingram, and you're paying Mark Ingram, why wouldn't you just go find some dude in the 4th round in the draft to take over the Ingram role and not pay him?
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. I mean, maybe that's something that they'll do.
Maybe.
But
it doesn't seem like they're going to do that, though.
It doesn't seem like it because, like, Ingram isn't making a ton of money anyways, but I know a lot of people think he's a free agent, but he had to be all pro to be able to opt out. And I think he just missed out on that. I mean, there's only so many running backs you can get in all pro.
Well, maybe they can get Adrian Peterson back.
Yeah, what a joke that was.
Cuss told me that if there's one running back he would sign this offseason, it's Adrian Peterson.
Like, why, though?
Because he's one of the best ever. He still got it.
He is one of the best resumes ever, but I mean, I think we've seen that he doesn't have it.
But he had one big game last year.
He did. He had.
Don't worry about those other games.
He had that huge game where he had 37 carries or something, and then the next day there was a Thursday night football game, and everyone was ranking AP as like a top 15 quarterback. It's like the guy just had 37 carries.
That is one of the things I did not fall into the trap. I took my medicine the week that he went off.
Yeah.
And then I was right all the other weeks.
And I was shocked that week that he went off. I said, no chance. Like, there's no way this guy's gonna be. And he went off, but.
He just looks so.
I think Gurley's the guy. I mean, he's everything to that offense. They have all kinds of weapons. It's Sean McVay. I mean, it's coaching. We talk about quarterbacks going to other spots.
Maybe he doesn't make it back to us, but let's say Gurley was theoretically there.
I think Gurley's actually a keeper from.
Fuck, really?
Yeah, from the head guy who runs the show.
From Toby?
Yeah, because we were in talks about Kevin Durant, and then originally when we were dealing Kevin Durant,
that's right.
I was like,
I don't know if he kept him or not.
First I was like, yeah, he mentioned Gurley to me. I was like, absolutely, let's do this. Let's just make the
deal.
And then it was like, well, now we need something else, and it was like, it just didn't make sense for us.
Yeah.
I wonder if he kept him, but Gurley is. I would go Gurley if it was standard. I do think Zeke. I just do. I'd go
Zeke
Gurley.
won?
No, I would go Gurley, and then I would go Zeke. And then I would go Bell, and then I would go DJ, and then I'm probably like Kamara if I'm forgetting anybody.
I feel like we're forgetting someone. Fournette is in that mix.
Oh, Hunt.
Fournette.
I would still go Hunt probably after like DJ and Bell.
And then we'll see who drafts who.
And then
Shady.
Barkley
forgot about.
Shady. I mean, Barkley is.
That all depends on where he goes.
Where he goes, I know.
Is he going to be Fournette? Where
he's not going to be a top 5 back.
Here, have the ball 30 times a game. That's probably unlikely to happen.
Right. But like again, Kamara, it's just so in a PPR. If someone wants to draft him first over in PPR, like I wouldn't suggest it. But
you understand it a bit.
But
more?
I understand a little bit more in PPR. But I mean, it's just when you look at the touches, he You know, look at all the touches.
Well,
from
you have to.
I'm sure he's going to get more touches.
Sure, but you also
get 300.
You have to maintain a certain level of efficiency to be the back that he is to produce those fantasy numbers, and that's why a lot of people kept going like on DraftKings wise. And we got to the second half of the season, like, oh, I'm just not going to take Kamara because there's no way he continued to be this efficient, and he was.
But it was like Chris Thompson. These guys are not on the same level.
I just think long term that people are going to bet against that. And I think the smarter, it's not to say that he can't do it, because we just saw him do it. But to make a probability bet that he's just not going to be at that level again.
Exactly.
And that's not to say that he won't be good.
Right.
But there's a difference between being the first overall pick and the 6th overall pick.
Yeah.
Like, I would still maybe take Antonio Brown first.
He's
in a PPR.
The safest player in football.
He is. He's the safest player.
Every
Even when he
year.
gets hurt, he's still the best player.
I know.
Or Hopkins. Like, you can make a case for
Hopkins.
Brown, Hopkins 1-2. Or Hopkins, Brown. Or whatever it is.
Well, in fact, I probably would go that way, maybe, in a draft, like if I had first. Like I would really think hard about Hopkins in a PPR, absolutely. I mean, why not? You see what him and Sean Watson did?
You know what's
him
fun?
and any other quarterback that did last year?
You know what's fun? Like, I haven't talked about football in like over a month now, like since the Super Bowl ended. Because I was just so sick of football. Like,
of course.
I really did not want to talk about it. But it's been fun again. Like, oh, who's going first?
Yeah,
People are doing drafts already.
That's a bit much.
Here's my advice. Get a fucking life.
The drafts right now are a bit much. I did a mock about a month ago, and after the first 2 rounds, I'm like, I'm done. I just want to do the first 2 rounds and see how it played out, and then that's it.
Oh, I got such good value in the 13th round. It's like, did you?
In the mock, Marquise Goodwin went in the 4th round, and I was like, that won't happen in 3 months. Like, I love Jimmy Garoppolo, but they're gonna make some moves, San Fran. Like, they're going to make
But that's the hard part about doing this, because as a part of this league, where we have to do the football draft at the same time.
So many things are going to happen in the NFL from that.
And that's one of the reasons why we punted. But having a few safe, we should probably go for 3 safe guys this time around.
Yeah, we should.
We have Fournette already locked in. We need to find 2 other pieces with Fournette that we know are just going to have jobs by the time September comes around.
Yeah, you're right, exactly, because, I mean, guys are moving all over the place. So much is going to happen. I think they just tagged Jarvis Landry the other day, but they gave him permission to seek a trade.
What a horrible idea.
Yeah, it's...
Hi, I'm Jarvis Landry. I had 138 catches.
I led the league in catches.
And I had 700 yards. Great year, Jarvis. Here's $20 million.
Crazy to think about. But for him, like, he's like, hey, I have all these catches, I had all these touchdowns, pay me.
What about Drake? I hate the Drake, but if he's still the guy, like, he should be a top 10 back, shouldn't he?
Peterman and Drake in the same
Peterman,
division.
Drake.
Drake, you're right. If he is still the guy, and it took Gase so long to figure that out, like it took an injury to Williams to figure out that Drake was actually pretty good. Like he talks shit all the time to Ajayi. I understand, like, he didn't hit the hole, and he's maybe selfish, but
also, if Ajayi was so good, why wasn't he the bell cow in Philadelphia?
Good point, but that's the way Peterson likes to do it, and he's done it since day one.
And it turned out to be very effective.
Yeah, he did it 2 years ago.
But if Ajayi is this end-all, be-all that people seem to think he is, I just don't think he's that good.
He's not. He's a good back, but he's not. I agree with you. He's not a.
10 to
and that's what will happen. That will happen next year too.
I think he's a lot. Maybe it's a Miami thing, but it's a lot like Lamar Miller. Lamar Miller was far more effective when he got 10 touches a game instead of 30.
Right.
And he had like the same amount of yards.
Yeah, and we saw when Foreman was sprinkled into the mix last year.
He
was good. You're right. I looked at the games.
There's a guy that we should draft, by the way, Deontay Foreman.
Yeah.
I know he broke his leg, tore his Achilles or something.
Yeah, some towards.
We'll check on his injury status first.
But you want a piece of that Houston offense. For
Maybe
sure.
Just draft Watson. Just be like, fuck it. First overall, Watson.
So in that
5 touchdowns
mock,
a game.
Watson went in the 2nd round. But if Watson's going to run, if he's going to average, and that's what he did. I think he averaged like 42 rushing yards a game before he got hurt. And if he's going to average a touchdown a game, basically.
On the ground, yeah.
And he's going to throw a touchdown every single game.
And sometimes he's going to rush for touchdowns.
He's going to rush for touchdowns. He's going to throw one every game to Hopkins. He's going to probably throw 1 or 2 to Fuller every other game. So, I mean... I know don't want to draft quarterbacks, but you just have one, and you don't have to worry about it.
Well, I think that needs to be our NFL philosophy here, and that was sort of what we wanted to do last year by drafting Julio. I was like, oh, we have an elite receiver. Because if we're going to punt football, which it sounds like we're going to do again, then if we're going to target, even if we have to reach on a Watson or an Aaron Rodgers to be our quarterback, at least get one of the best 2 guys.
Yeah.
It'd be like, in a weird way, taking Gronk. Because, I mean, we had C.J. Fedorowicz and Ben Watson. Like, we pieced it together week to week. But just having that one guy who could... And Gronk's probably not a good one because he gets hurt so often. But if you get the good year from Gronk,
Yeah,
You win tight end, and that could be enough to push you over the edge.
People are probably thinking like us, and Watson is probably a keeper. You know what I mean? Like you said Wentz is a keeper.
Oh, yeah, well, someone did keep Wentz. I don't know if anyone did keep Watson. I assume they must have.
So he would have been he just would have been a free agent pickup. So I think he would have been able to keep for 20. I have no problem with that strategy at all.
But like even I bet you Aaron Rodgers doesn't go as highly this time around.
No, he won't.
So I think he went in like the 4th round last time. I bet you he goes in like the 7th or 8th this time.
Yeah,
I'd be okay with taking Rodgers.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Buy the bounce back, and we'll take Devontae Adams in the 14th, and then we'll have Fournette, Adams, and Rodgers, and hopefully it pans out.
And we'll be loving it.
Yeah. Chris Meaney.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah,
Good
man.
times.
Tell everyone where they can follow you on the Twitters.
At Chris Meaney. Pretty simple.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, MEANEY.
All right. I'm Pat Mayo. You can follow me at the PME. Give the episode a like. Subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, Podomatic, Spotify, wherever you can download podcasts. This was the Friday Hang. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time.